Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is toast and jam tea from Yorkshire tea, which I mixed with another kind of a breakfast blend because it was too sweet to me. And I figured I'm talking about something sweet at least once today. And I'm also staying on at least one theme here because this is supposed to be a cat dressed as Mr. Darcy, which is Regency era, I guess. And so that fits in with at least some of my discussion today. So I'm doing my TBR for February, and I'm surrounded by books here that have. It's really overwhelming. It's a little too much. And some may say, well, why don't you just pare it down a little bit? But I think what I'm doing today is like always doing. Kazenza phrase, pile of possibilities. I definitely know I'm not going to read all these books. I'm not even going to start all these books. But I like the variety. I like the possibilities. I like the choice. Some of these books I really, really do intend to read in the month of February, and some of them I just like to choose from. So I think I say that a lot now when I do my TBR videos. I think it should be established that this is not a goal to read all of these books. Still, I am excited because um, they're mostly books that are in keeping with two different events that I want to be a part of. One is hosted by a number of lovely booktubers, and I will link their videos. I believe all their videos down below. And that is Febregency, which I think is pretty great because it is a time period, first of all, that I would like to read a little more of and a little more about because my favorite author is Jane Austen. So I find that I concentrate a lot on that time during July because of Jane Austen July, and I like that. But then I kind of taper off the rest of the year, and so this is another opportunity. And so my favorite poets are from this time period as well. So that works for me because I'm still trying to read more poetry. So we'll see what I can do. So I have a lot of books here for Febregency. And then I also have books for one of the events that I'm one of the many hosts of, which is the Library Love Readathon, which is, again, encouraging readers to take more time out to appreciate their libraries, to take more books out of the library, to visit the library if possible, or to get ebooks, any other kind of media that you want to get or that you can get from your local library, whether it's, through online ways or through physical ways. All of it is good. So that's a lot to cover. Some of it, there are slight overlaps here, which is good, I guess. But I better get started because there's a lot to talk about. And yeah, we're only like 3 minutes in, so let's get started. I'm going to start with Febregency because that is I believe the whole month, and they've tweaked the dates, so it's not necessarily just the time period where the future George IV was the Prince Regent, which is basically when the Regency was, actually took place. And he had to cover for his father because his father had gone through numerous times where he was just not in any position health wise to do anything. So there it is. That was the Regency. And I don't know if there was any other time period in English history where there was that much of a Regency. So it's that's why they call it the Regency. Anyway, I think we've established that. So that time period was lengthened to, I believe, 1837, which is when the Victorian era started. So obviously some of those years are a stretch. Most of the books that I have are in the actual Regency period, but I think one or two of them happened slightly later. And that's good. I actually think that this is good, that Regency is a little bit stretchier, because I have found that the books that one reads for Jane Austen July, if you're going to end it around when Jane Austen died, which was 1817, and then if you join Victober in a few months and you do anything from her reign onward, which is 1837, there's like a 20-year period there that it's really hard to reckon with. And so it's good that one can include them when possible. Anyway, again, long-winded. So I'm going to start with a collection of essays, which I've been struggling with lately. Every time I have a collection of essays, I might read like one essay and not go further. But that doesn't mean that I feel like I'm not doing anything. It's just I would really like to read more essays, especially from this time period. There were a lot of great essayists. Um, I haven't read, I think, Hazlitt. He's the one I don't have anything from, which I want to, because of course he was referenced in 84 Charing Cross Road, you know. But I did read Leigh Hunt, so I recommend him. But I have this one that I picked up from Book Off last year, I think it was ish. Um, yeah, and I can't remember anything anymore. For $1, which I just love saying that. I don't know why, but I guess it's because I think that in a way this is something that I've been looking for so long. So to be able to find it at such a reasonable price is both exciting but a little bit daunting. So I'm like, maybe it's not that good of a book, but we'll find out. This is Charles Lamb's Essays of Elia. I know I've heard it pronounced different ways, but I've decided to say Elia. And Charles Lamb was a writer. He and his sister did some writings together. I have somewhere their tales from Shakespeare. They, tell the stories from Shakespeare plays. And their family story, the things that his sister did, is really dramatic. It is amazingly dramatic. And Charles Lamb was just at a time period. He was placed to know a lot of people from the Regency period. There's a book that I have that I didn't bring with me, but it talks about this dinner that I think he was a part of and Keats was a part of, maybe Leigh Hunt, and one or two other people, a painter whose name is not coming to mind. It's just a great book that just so talks about the time period. It's just really. So I've wanted to read more of his actual writings, more than just about him, but at his actual writings. So that's one. And here's a book that was written, I think, in the 1820s. And I started at some point because I see I have this old cat bookmark that I got from a friend who went to Italy in like 2007. So I think I started this a long time ago. And I know I've heard both good and bad about this book. Some people say it's boring. Some people say it's too, I don't know, florid or whatever the word is. Florid. Anyway, doesn't matter. All kinds of criticisms. And I'm just curious. I have a biography on this writer, so I think I should read his writing first. It just seems like an interesting subject. So we'll see if I can get to it. That is Confessions of an English Opium Eater. Imagine an English opium reader. That would be an interesting reader. By Thomas de Quincey. So it talks about drug addiction. I mean, that is sometimes a subject I have a rough time with, but it might be interesting from this particular time period. So we shall see. The picture, the front, is rather something else. Try to see who did this painting. It's a detail from the smoking room with monkeys by Abraham Tenier in. Okay, the museum is a very long name that I cannot pronounce. Anyway, yeah, it's a bit trippy. So we'll see. All right. Okay, oh my goodness, I have more books to come. Okay, this is a book that I picked because it's pretty short. I actually have two different editions of this particular book. One is 2-in-1, and this is an individual one. I want to read from this one because I think I can mark it up because it's already been marked up to death. I don't know, we'll see. But it's a very short book, so I think I can manage it, and it's definitely a time period friendly book. This is a writer who was kind of pretty popular at her time. It still is known now, but I think Jane Austen is more well known. Still a little too sweet. And that is Maria Edgeworth's Castle Rackrent. So that's another picture in the front. I just love these cover paintings. This is the lighting here is terrible today. The Hunt Supper by Thomas Rowlandson. Anyway, so this takes place in Ireland during a political crisis, the 1790s. So it's about the right time period-ish. And again, not a very long book. I have not read anything from Maria Edgeworth, and that is a goal that I mean to keep this year. So I hope I could get to it in February. And whatever I don't get to, I probably will just carry on till July. There's a lot of prompts, and I'm just gonna basically the same thing with the library Love Readathon. I'm going to sort of do an after the fact keeping prompts for the most part, wherein if I finish a book, I'll say, okay, this is in keeping with this and this prompt. So I don't know if that's sneaking around a little bit, but I don't think it matters. We have to tailor things to our reading needs, right? So I have, but one of the prompts in the Regency was to read a Regency poem. So I decided to kind of combine taking a book from the library as well as Regency, and that is fulfilled by taking a book out by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I have some of his poems, but I don't have an actual volume of his poems for some reason. At least I don't think I do. It's not in my record. So I would like to read at least a few from here at some point in February. Great. Yeah, like I said, I'm a little behind in my poetry reading lately. Here's a book I started during one of the Jane Austen Julys, but I would really like to read it before I read Northanger Abbey again. So this definitely goes to a prompt of something that Jane Austen refers to in her books or is inspired by. And that is the Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. I have other books by Anne Radcliffe. Some are shorter, actually, but I kind of want to continue with this one because it starts out kind of slow, but I know the action happens eventually, and I know it can be considered, at least by some people, it's considered an enjoyable book. So I want to see what the appeal was to the readers of the Regency time period, or even the Pregency time period. Slightly Georgian readers. The Georgian time is usually, I think it sort of encompasses the Regency because there was still kings named George, but it's weird trying to get technical on that. But speaking of which, I have this book that I started in last July, and of course, because I had a million other books I was reading, I just left off somewhere in the middle of it. But I remember it being a good book, so I think I will be happy to get back to it. It's an actual nonfiction about the Regency period. It's Robert Morrison's Regency years. So it says, during which Jane Austen writes, Napoleon fights, Byron makes love, and Britain becomes modern. I had the cover off for a while, so now it's a little bit warped, I think. But I really do like this cover as well. And yeah, I think it will be good to just not just read the literature for the time, but yeah, read a nonfiction. Hopefully I can make some headway in this book. And now, connecting with, again, a few things. One, of course, Febregency. Two, Jennifer Brooks has a classics book club that she has been she started, and this is the second book in it for February because it works for the time period, and it's a library book, so this kind of fills everything possibly needed for this month, and that is Mary Shelley, The Last Man. I have not read anything by Mary Shelley yet. I did think about reading Frankenstein because that would be great, but this is the group read, so I think I'm just going to start with this and hope that I can get into it. The only thing I don't like is that the print is a bit small, but might encourage me to go back to the eye doctor. I am overdue to go to the eye doctor. Excuse me, I got a little let me clear my throat. Yay. Okay. So let's get into the Library Love Readathon, and I'm gonna sort of try to fit things into my own prompts a little bit. First one I think was warm drink, and there's so many ways you can interpret a warm drink. I think of something, in this case, that I look forward to. That's a habit, which is for me tea. I do drink coffee every once in a while, but it doesn't agree with me very much, so I'm much more of a tea person. But yeah, it's something that I say is a pretty regular thing and a comforting but also stimulating thing. So to me, that is very much what I think of when I think of mystery novels, particularly cozy mysteries, but other kinds of mysteries as well. So I have 3 out from the library that I could read in February. Just a side note, the books I'm showing you for the Library Love Readathon are not all the books I have out for the library. Not all of them. So, yeah, I kind of overdid it this time. But anyway, this first one is one that I'm reading with one of Kate Howe's groups, which is like a mystery book club. I don't know, I forgot the exact name of it. But we were reading another series, and it was not as well received, so this one seems to be a little bit better. It is the first one in the Molly Murphy Mysteries. Murphy's Law by Reese Bowen. I hope. My gosh, why can't I say names? David Bowie. I can say David Bowie, but but some people say David Bowie. So okay. Um, this takes place in it looks like New York, which I love. A while ago, and that's all I know about it. So I'm gonna find out. It is as new to me as it is to those of you who haven't read it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Um, I do like reading about New York as well, so that helps. And it really matches with another book of a very similar time period, which is A Front Page Affair. See what I mean? Which I got out from the library. It is a Kitty Weeks mystery. I hope it's the first one because I have a bad habit lately and continually, really, of getting a book or buying a book, either borrowing it or buying it, that ends up not being the first book in the series. And I have to decide for myself, do I want to keep going, or should I just either return it and start somewhere else, or what? And sometimes I just keep going anyway. But I hope this is the first one. This is Front Page Affair. It takes place in 1915. It is by Readathon. And yes, you can see that looks like, it looks like the Flatiron Building. I'm not sure if it actually is. Because I'm not sure around it if it exactly looks like it. But I guess I'll find out when I read it. This is about an aspiring journalist, female journalist, because, in those days. And I love that because, I like the whole Nellie Bly adventures. Let's see. So she writes for like a ladies page, and she wants to be like a real journalist, and I think she gets involved in a mystery. So that's all I'm going to say about it until I actually read it, and then maybe I'll actually do a teen mystery based on that as well. And this one is I didn't start it even though I put a bookmark in it, but this is actually something that will go. I just, off the top of my head, I know at least 2 different other prompts from other booktubers or hosts of the Library Love Readathon, because it has a cat in the cover and it has food in the cover. Yeah. So this is Murder in a Teacup. It's the second book of Vicky Delaney's Tea by the Sea, I think it's called, mysteries. Tea by the Sea mystery. And it's got a kitty cat. Anyway, I know I didn't like this one, the first book, as much as I liked her Sherlock Holmes Bookshop Mysteries, Gemma Doyle. But I think I want to keep going with it, so it should be a nice cozy mystery. And it's in a teacup, which is where a warm drink is also located, so quite literally. Okay, and then I had try something new, which means so many things. And let's see, one thing that is new, and also probably a prompt, because I think someone mentioned that they have graphic novels. This is a graphic biography, but I have read only a few. I read only a few graphic biographies in my time. I think I read one recently about Freddie Mercury, because I'm very predictable. But even though I've read about this person, I've read at least 2 books about this person. I haven't read about her in this form, so it's kind of new. And I don't think I've ever read anything from this writer, Gina Siciliano. I don't think. So this is I Know What I Am, the Life and Times of Artemisia Gentileschi. I hope I pronounced that correct, because I know I had been pronouncing it wrong for so long, and then I heard the name said on an episode of Endeavor, and I said, ooh, did I say it wrong all this time? Oh no! But I think that it is up my alley in the sense that it's a little bit of something familiar, but it's also a little bit different than what I normally read. I just really do like this volume, and I haven't read about her in a while. She was a very interesting painter around the time period of Galileo, and she went through some stuff. So I'll talk about that hopefully when I read it. She was brilliant. I've seen some of her paintings in various museums. At one point, she joined her father, who was also a painter, to do some work in Greenwich, London, and I finally got to see some of that when I went in 2014. I know, you say finally, but that's a long time ago, but I started reading about her around 2003, so, sometimes it's at long last. I have a book that literally has the word new in it 3 times, and so this is not a new subject for me, but the time period is kind of interesting to me. New York, New York, New York by Thomas Dia or Dija. Oh my goodness, I should really look this up. 4 decades of success, excess, and transformation. I think it goes from, let's see, sometime, okay, from around the 1970s onwards. So basically, New York City in my lifetime, which I think is kind of cool, but I'm not sure if this style is going to be for me, but I'll find out. I was listening to the radio not long ago and I heard this being talked about, so I thought, okay, I'm curious about what it talks about, the changes and everything. It is up my alley because I know I talk about London a lot on this channel and other cities. I'm interested in reading about different places, but I will always have a soft spot, I guess you'll say, for New York because it's my home, and you'd like to know a little bit about your home. And this is also new. I don't know if I'm going to have time to read this one, but it is also in keeping with Febregency and a library book. So it is a writer that I don't remember ever reading, so she's new to me, and the subject is something that I'm not extremely familiar with, and that this is called The Lady and Her Monsters, a tale of dissections, real-life Dr. Frankensteins, and the creation of Mary Shelley's masterpiece by Roseanne Montillo or Montillo. I do not know. It depends. So I think this could be interesting, but I'm not sure. I'm not really into medical readings, but then again, I have read some that were pretty good, like the Mutter Museum, the man who it was named after. I read a book, I think it was called Mutter's Marvels a while back, and it was really a good book. So I could be wrong. So where did I go? I went to warm drink, something new, and then sweet. Something sweet. I have something in here a lot. Anyway, that's one of my favorite Beatles songs, Something. Anyway, had to mention either Beatles or Queen, and I mentioned them both today. When I think of sweet, there's a lot of things I could think of, but I tend to think of children's books, among other things. And there are some children's books I never managed to read. So I decided when I went to my local library, which is also the library I grew up in-ish, I decided to go to the children's section, which I haven't been to in so long, could be over a decade. And it was so weird to walk in there because even though, of course, it's changed, the setup isn't completely different, not completely. So there were parts of it that I felt like the weirdest familiar nostalgia. And so I thought, I got to get at least one book from here, because it's a sweet memory. Most of my memories from being there are some really good ones. And I'll talk about that another time. But so I found this book, like I said, so many children's books I haven't read, but I've heard about, and I think this would be something I would like. And this is from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by E.L. Koningsberg. And so, yeah, a lot of readers have already read this book, so I probably don't have to go into that much detail. But this takes place a lot in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. Once again, another place that I find quite sweet to visit. Sometimes literally, I've been to the tea room there. It was pretty good. It was a little overpriced, but usually it is. So, but it was good. And I gotta get back to the Met Museum again soon. So I'll let you know how I feel about this one. I really do want to read. This is one of the ones I really, really want to read in February. Like really, really, really. All right, and you think that's it, right? Because we're up to 24 minutes here. You think that's it? No, not by a long shot. Well, by a slight long shot. Anyway, so there's 2 other books that are group reads that I would like to be a part of. And I don't know if I'm going to make it through both of these, but we're going to give it a shot. The first one is a reread, and this is Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. And I've been wanting to reread this recently because I've been reading a lot about the Brontes lately. And I read this book probably 19 years ago. So is due for a reread, I think, because, yeah. And so that's all. That's all. So I hope to reread this. I bought this copy a couple of years ago, like right before the pandemic, whatever. I saw a picture of this particular edition, and I just, for some reason, really loved it. So I got it now. Now, here's a book that I've been hearing a lot about, and I've been wanting to read for many, many years. It was recommended to me decades ago, and I bought this over a decade ago, and it's kind of falling apart. But it is a Dostoevsky, and it's the Everyman Library version. I bought it at a library sale, so it's kind of a library book, but I got it apparently for $1 as is. It is The Idiot by Dostoevsky. So I would like to see if I can join in reading this. I don't know if I'm going to make it through the whole thing in February. I sincerely doubt it unless I completely get stuck in this book. I think the translator for this one is Constance Garnett, who it seems I've read a lot of her translations, which I don't seem to mind. Oh boy, did you see all those books? I know there are people who would say this is very easy. I could read all this in the month of February, but you know, it is a short month. So for me, it's a challenge because I average between like 6 and 10 books a month. So I know, especially because some of these books are chunky, some of them are not. So I'm going to do my best. I am not going to give myself any pressure. I'm going to try to enjoy myself. February is, you know, a bleak month usually. So we should really try to have a good time. So let's do it. Let me know what you guys plan to read in February. I would love to know. And if you are joining in on any of these events, please let me know as well. And that, for now, is all. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and many, many book-filled day. Bye.